let me rewind a little bit. I mean, this gives us a chance to start fresh. So we can actually go live soon. We'll try to pick up some people. I feel like we may have confused some people as well. So I'll just give them some time to trickle back in. That was so bad. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. I actually have used the post to trim my mustache. Looks like it got out of control.
Oh, I think it looks fine. I think it looks good. You're in Europe, right? Where are you in Europe?
Yeah, currently in Bulgaria, in my hometown actually. It's like 15,000 people, super tiny town in the mountains.
Yeah.
I grew up here.
Is I mean, is it nice to be back home? Like,
Yeah. It's I haven't been here for that long for the past 12 years. So it's really cool to be back, to be able to spend some time with family. You're in Singapore right now.
Yeah, exactly. COVID is a really good forcing function for people to go back home and spend time with their family because you can't do anything else. Yeah,
So
but
how's your sleeping schedule?
yeah, I'm working U.S. hours from Singapore. It's okay. My sleep schedule is kind of weird, and my family has to accommodate me, but it's fine. Yeah.
When do you wake up and how until what time do you?
Yeah, I wake up at around like 2 to 3 p.m. and then I
Yeah.
sleep at around like 7 or 8 a.m.
Okay. Similar to mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how things go. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm super flustered because I feel like I screwed that up just now. But anyway, I'm sorry about. Actually, I don't know. I don't like this background. I think it's just the simpler one will be better, especially since you put your ID. Okay, sorry. But yeah. We were talking. So we were talking about a little bit about my background and how I didn't really know Angular, and then we're talking about how So that's something I didn't really know your background. Like I didn't know that you started with React. I thought you were just Angular through and through.
Yeah, I started with AngularJS first in 2012 when I built a product for an edtech startup with AngularJS. Everything went fine. I don't regret the technological choice. AngularJS was performing just fine for this particular case. We didn't find market fit. Later on, I started working on a new project. I was really passionate about WebRTC, real-time communication, distributed systems, stuff like that. So and virtualization. So I picked React because why not? To learn, just wanted to learn another technology. And just around that time, Igor and Tobias from my team right now, they announced that AngularJS, that they're going to start working on Angular 2 back then. And that was going to be a completely different technology. So I was thinking, maybe, the startup is already risky enough. Maybe it doesn't make sense to introduce more risk in the tech stack. So let me continue working with React. And the project actually, it became successful. We ended up being acquired by Coursera. So I kind of converted some of my Angular friends back then to React. I was happy with both technologies. So really, and later on for another company, we started using Angular from the very early Alpha 24 versions. So I have looked through. So I have some experience, about 2-3 years of experience with React, and 8 years of experience with AngularJS and Angular combined.
That's super impressive. And obviously from inside the core team, how does it change? Once you start working on apps with Angular to like working on the internals of Angular. And I think you have a more dev tools focus now, right? Than before.
Yeah, previously I was building a lot of tools as well, so this didn't change too much on my side. Something that I'm trying to find enough time right now is just to dog food the tools that we're working on and make sure that we're able to properly identify best practices. And to a big extent, this is thanks to the developers who are constantly building large apps with Angular. So we're talking to them, building apps, brainstorming different solutions. Currently, probably the biggest challenge is around micro frontends, since a lot of the Angular applications out there are pretty big. Let's say for sure over 100,000 lines of code. So Google Cloud Console, for example, is for sure over 1 million lines of code. I would say maybe 2 million at this point. So being able to build the application across multiple teams and being able to deploy your pieces independently from others is pretty important right now. I'll say at scale, that's the biggest challenge that people are facing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of opportunities to tackle this and mention this as we go along. But I guess people want to see code.
Yeah.
So shall we? Okay, I'm gonna share my screen, but you can also share your screen if there's something that on your side that you have that I don't have.
Okay.
But I have I have a basic like VS Code setup. Basically, the only thing that I have installed is the Angular dev tool. So I have like the language server, some snippets, and some schematics. I'm not sure if I need any of those things, but I figured we'll just get started and we'll talk about the kind of things that you've been working on.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Let's start work by creating a new Angular project. For example, I also shared my screen, so we can switch. I have some tools that.
Do you want me to let's switch to yours?
Okay. Let me start with the template syntax and tools that allow us to that the template syntax enables. Since you mentioned that originally templates were coming more naturally to you because you had Vue.js background originally.
Yep.
Yeah. So often in communities, I see this discussion versus like JSX versus templates, and both have their pros and cons clearly. Like JSX is super dynamic and powerful. Templates, for example, are very easy to optimize. You can analyze them very easily because they're statically analyzable. Like you cannot get the name of your templates, let's say element name, from local storage. Like that's not possible. However, in React, you can use React creates, what was it? Create element, was it?
Yeah, create element.
Yeah, and you can get the value from local storage, and this is not analyzable at build time. So here is.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
There is a tool that. Let me start from the beginning. That I worked on while I was still not part of the team, which takes advantage of this feature. So here I selected a tsconfig of an Angular application, and it pretty much shows me the entire app here. This is the app module, which is where the entry point for the application is. Here inside of the app module, we can look at the home module. When we look at the home module, we can find the home components and the home components template, which has a bunch of diffs, an app article, and a bunch of other stuff. So we can go to the app article, we can go to the service. So this enables good static analysis for, if there is navigation, for the entire Angular.
Wow.
App component might be interesting.
What are the colors?
Which colors? Oh, this one. It's a breadcrumb.
Green, red, blue. Do they mean different things?
Oh yeah, this here HTML element. The green one is an HTML element. This one like purple, or I don't know what it is. It's a HTML element with a directive on it. So probably that's a router link. Yeah, it's an element with a router link. So you can navigate to a different page from this one.
This is pretty cool. So you worked on this before you joined the Angular team?
Yeah, and this is currently actually broken. That's why I'm showing it on my laptop, because it's currently broken since we rewrote the compiler.
Gotcha. Oh, that's pretty cool. It makes me wonder if like this, you know how so in React land we have React Dev Tools, and we have like a component tree that we can explore. This is kind of similar. I wonder if you can sort of click around like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Angular Dev Tools actually.
Oh, okay, well, yeah. Same thing. Oh, it looks so similar, actually. Wow. Even the styling looks profiler. Okay.
Yeah, well, Vue DevTools looks pretty similar as well.
Yeah.
It's like we had Augur in the past. Now we're working on a more, let's say, advanced solution. So you can explore, for example, how much time you're spending in the individual components. Here we spent quite some time, and we have a frame drop. It's still not even in an alpha though. That's my development environment right now.
Oh, okay. So this is something that the core team is building as part of your, something.
Yeah. So it's interesting, however, that Angular DevTools or like React DevTools, this performs dynamic analysis. So you need to execute the application in order to visualize it. And this thing here, ng reverse, it looks at the source code files and figures out the dependencies across individual units. so that it can build like these relationships. So that's the difference. You don't have to run the application here. And this means that the compiler understands which are the dynamic parts of the template so that it can perform change detection only over the bindings and leave the rest. That's, I guess, when you need to synchronize the view model with the view of the application, there are different approaches, and there are two main things. First, how are you going to know when you need to perform this synchronization? In Svelte, I think Svelte does this at compile time, right? By using colon, you define computable properties, right? Was there something like that?
That makes variables reactive. Yeah.
And
So
the compiler checks out when you are assigning them so that it can perform like the textual changes, right?
So it's a two-stage operation. So whenever you make an assignment, so any assignment operator, the compiler sees that and then rewrites it to have a to set a dirty bit essentially, and once the dirty bit is set, then the scheduler picks up on it, and then anything that is reactive with the dollar sign gets recalculated when something is dirty.
Oh yeah.
Everything that is not reactive, so by default it is not recalculated. So you need to add the dollar sign for anything that is reactive.
Yeah. Okay. And React, you set state, so that's how you trigger.
Similar, yeah.
In React, in Angular we try to guess when you could have changed the model and we trigger change detection after that. And there are different pros and cons of both approaches. The unique thing here with the compiler, which is valid for both like Angular, Svelte, and I guess others, is that you can track down what has changed in the template because you can statically analyze it. You don't have to traverse the entire tree. Yeah. And set some constraints clearly. Okay.
Gotcha. Cool. Zoom in a bit if you're, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're an Angular developer, you usually use the Angular CLI, and you start by creating a new app. Let's say a demo app. So here, you install like the Angular CLI with npm as a global binary. It's like something like that. I should have the latest version probably. Yeah, maybe we need to release another patch version today.
It's something about Angular as well. You're unique in that your release schedule has a regular calendar schedule to it, right? Like a 1 year, 2 year cycle.
Yeah, we do patch releases weekly. Yeah. So every week we are pushing some bug fixes primarily, and we do major releases twice a year.
Gotcha.
And we have this ng update experience that I can share about more. So yeah, the CLI just asks you a couple of things, whether you want route or whether you want to use stats.
You already win compared to all the other frameworks with the router. Okay, yeah. So this is scary. There's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
Component module routing polyfills. Okay, but
yeah, that's actually. It could be a good feedback. Do you think that's like too much information that we're sharing right here, or?
I mean, you should make Angular users happy if whatever they're. I would say that I think that whatever shows up on screen should be informative, and if it shows up every time, it's not really helpful. Like like if it's too noisy, then people just like start to ignore the messages that they get printed out. Like tell me when something's going wrong, and tell me if something's unusual, and tell me when you're done, something like that, or for example, like this npm install stage. It's slow, probably slow because you're live streaming from Bulgaria, but also it could have some sort of estimation, like progress estimation thing, right? That's a difficult problem, but it's something that Brian Vaughn from the React team has worked on, just based on prior install times.
I see. We can probably do that. Here we also bring an end-to-end testing framework, unit testing framework, assertion library, a bunch of other things, since we generally prefer to enable best practices by default.
Yeah.
So yeah, here is the demo app. So here this is like Angular CLI, which uses a schematic collection. I remember we briefly talked about schematics on Twitter. The schematics is a thing which allows you to perform transformations on top of files. That's pretty much all of it. And you can specify a collection as part of your ng-new. For example, if I do app2, I can specify a different collection that would be used for the initial footprint of the project.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So when we go to demo app, we get like a bunch of stuff here. We have the defaults, app component templates where we can. Oh, I think I removed the router. Yeah. And I guess we can add the title. And maybe I should switch to VS Code to show you the language service.
Oh yeah, that's something that we want to show off as well. And it's as far as I could tell, this is a relatively new thing.
I would say at least 3 years from.
Okay.
For at least 3 years.
Oops. Yeah. No, forget what I said. I think I found a repo from someone else that was quite new.
Yeah. So with the language service, you can, for example, inspect the individual elements. For example, this here is a router link, a router outlet that comes from the routing module. And when we click on it, this is going to take us probably, like in this case, like, oh, it's initializing some JavaScript, TypeScript features. Anyway, yeah, it found the declaration in the router DTS file. Yeah, clearly we can do stuff like we have title here, which is a property which we have declared inside of the app component.
Yeah. Yeah, I love language. Ooh, okay, that's good though. Yeah.
Looks like it currently doesn't perform like very strict type checking, which doesn't seem right. We have 2 different type checking.
Oh, that's interesting. So it doesn't use TypeScript.
Yeah, this is the Angular template language. Although internally we're translating it to TypeScript so that we can take advantage of the TypeScript's type system.
Yeah. This is something that Svelte also struggles with because we, inside of the templates we can't really, suspend and use TypeScript to type check the JS inside.
I guess here you would be able to type check stuff. For example, when we type full, and if we try to pass it, okay, let me run ng build.
Maybe you have to build it first.
Yeah, we're working on a new language service that we're going to release for an early preview in January next year. That's our plan so far. And it it has better type checking support, and it also uses like the Angular compiler, which steps on top of the TypeScript compiler to do that. Gotcha. Here it looks like, looks like the current version doesn't complain that foo doesn't have declared parameters here. Yeah, so I guess that's most of what you're getting from the language service. You usually get type checking, auto completion, and you're also going to have some refactoring support in the new language service. When you type rename symbol and you change the symbol to, let's say, foo2, this is going to automatically update foo inside of the component as well.
Oops.
Oh, I didn't.
Is it from what? Oh, you didn't do it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's in the new language service. This is something that actually WebStorm have had it for like years now in Angular, and I think it's Svelte as well, in Vue as well, right?
I don't know about Vue. I think they're working on very very advanced stuff there. But yeah, my ex-boss used to be a Java guy, and he would not shut up about the refactoring.
Yeah. Yes. Here is the type checking. So the compiler is going to complain if you try to do something which is not allowed by the TypeScript type system.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there's a bit of work to do to surface this inside of the language service.
Yeah, it should be enabled by default by version 11.2. So
Okay.
sometime next year.
Just to stay high level, like what is the big potential of language services that you think could be done? Like I feel like we all are scratching the surface because this is still a relatively new phenomenon. I mean, new in the sense that it's been around for 3 years, but like I feel like there's a lot more innovation to come.
So this is something that has been out there for like different technologies for a while now. I'll say we are actually using already a built-in language service protocol that's existing in VS Code and is being used in other languages. When I was configuring my Vim editor some time back, I remember I was using some plugins to connect with the language service of TypeScript, which was a thing like maybe 5-6 years ago. And even before that, Vim had support for type checking in template, like in C code. So I would say that this has been out there for a while. Just
Okay.
the front-end framework started adopting it recently.
Yeah. And, but I guess what do you is there any sort of big thing in the future that could be achieved with language servers that because I mean I'm quite new to this then is there like a big wish list that everybody wants to achieve but hasn't done it yet?
I think automatic refactoring is going to be really helpful, specifically in this case here with Angular. When we change property name and this propagates across the entire project, this is going to be pretty cool, which is already actually possible in WebStorm. So
Yeah.
I'll say that around the language services, so maybe we can make them smarter at some point. Imagine the smart compose that we have in Gmail right now. We can have this as part of the language service as well, or the text editor maybe. I don't know where exactly is the right place. Probably text editor, where it can guess what is the next element that you want to type, so that you can press just tap and get it out completed.
Yeah. Got it. Cool. How about we try some of the other fancy stuff that you guys are working on? What would it be a good time to talk about schematics and how you can modify stuff?
Let me fix this. So, for example, we can generate a new router or a new route right now. Let's see what I changed. Yeah, nothing. Let me just remove this method. It doesn't make sense at all. So, yeah. So here, for example, we can generate a new lazy loaded route. We generally use ng. After that, we can type generate or g. ng. We want to place in a module, so we want to generate a module. And we want to call it, I don't know, like about maybe. And we want to put it under the route about with parent module, the app module. And this is going to create a new about routing module. It's going to generate an about component, and it is going to update the route declarations inside of the app routings. So if we go to here, we can see that inside of the route, we already have a new route generated. I would say that this is, so what Schematics provides in this case is when you run the ng generate command, it is going to provide you the entire component tree in memory. And from there, you can select particular file depending on what you want to modify. For example, we can find directly the app routing module. We can parse it with TypeScript, get the AST, and find the right place for this URL. For example, we can generate one more. Let's say, call it contact.
It links the multiple things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is routing so modular? Why don't this is something that's new to me because obviously I mean, well, not obviously, but other routing paradigms I'm used to could be file based. It could be there's like a big routes.js file with all the routes. What's the design decision here?
Yeah, so you can definitely go path based. I would say I really like this paradigm actually. Next.js makes it really easy for you to reason about the route just by looking at the component structure, by looking at the directory structure. what we do in Angular is, I guess, similar to the Rails approach, but instead of having a single huge like route file, we're making it decentralized so that you can have your route right here. You can have route specific for about inside of the route declaration, inside of the about module, and so on and so forth.
Okay, got it. Okay, and then going back to schematics. So schematics are basically code gen on steroids is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Are they meant to be invisible to the user? Like, does the average Angular user know or care?
Yeah, they're meant to be invisible, and you can do a couple of main things with schematics. Like the first one is clearly bootstrapping a new application. You can specify custom schematics collection. We have some folks from, at least from the React community, that are using schematics right now with NX. That's Narwhal's extension built on top of the Angular CLI. So you can create a new project. You can generate new stuff. For example, here we're generating routes. We're updating existing files, finding out where we should insert the route, and so on. You can do something like implement something like a post install hook. Let me show you what I mean by that. For example, we can let me just commit stuff. That's my worst commit message. We can add server-side rendering support. We're adding the Express engine for Angular Universal, which is our server-side rendering solution. This is something similar, like so ng-add is going to install the package, and right after that, it is going to run something like a post-install hook. The post-install hook, however, is going to provide you access to the entire file system in memory. I should have done something. So what this provides to us is the fact that we don't really necessarily have to perform these transformations on top of the real files on the file system. We can only perform them in memory and see whether the transformation has passed successfully or not. Only if the transformation has passed successfully, then we're committing to the disk. Otherwise, we roll back the transaction.
Yeah, it's like atomic transactions in databases. Like either do all of them or do nothing.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah, so ng-add is something similar to what we discussed with the post-install hook. It is going to install the package and right after that run some logic. So I guess the difference is that it's going to provide you this in-memory file system tree outside of the book, like directly, so that you can transform it and commit the file changes on the disk.
Yeah. That's something that I when I first took a look at Angular schematics, I didn't really understand why I needed this, but it's a little bit clearer now. Is there some form of pattern matching? Like, let's say, so one of my worries, right? Like, let's say I'm trying to generate a file, that I'm trying to modify an existing file. The user may have modified it in the meantime. So I mean. And sometimes the user might be modifying it in an acceptable way. Sometimes they may have changed it too much that I can't really modify those files anymore. Do you know what I mean? Am I losing you?
I'm not sure. Can you show me an example?
Let's see. If you have your code, so you see you update. Actually, go back to your terminal. So you update app.module.ts and app.routing.module.ts, right? Okay, so let's go to app.routing.module.ts. This is user controlled code, and you're trying to modify it, right? What if the user like did some weird unrecognized thing to this file, right? Because it's just JavaScript or it's just TypeScript. They could do whatever you want, and that could break the updating on the
I see. So for example, if you
could break up this constant into like an array that is dynamically assigned or whatever. I don't know, right?
Yeah, I see. I see. Yeah, for example, if you have invalid syntax, or if you have, let's say,
you just change the shape of it, like routes 1, routes 2, and then routes.append. Like it could be anything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, well, schematics, they wouldn't be able to recognize the pattern where we're adding the route, so this operation would just not succeed.
Yeah, okay. So it's some sort of pattern matching.
It's something similar with this one here. So for example, if you, so let me just create it to for example, here too, we're getting type checking. TypeScript understands that this module here is coming from the about module. And it can tell us, well, the about module has one export called about module. So yeah, this works fine. However, if we do something like that, let's say we get this from local storage. About module. TypeScript can no longer provide this because it cannot figure out what is the value of the thing coming from local storage. So there are some design decisions that went into Angular to make sure that we have statically analyzable code, and we are recommending them as best practices. Since we cannot enforce them all the time, sometimes people have more dynamic use cases. We are still recommending them as best practices.
Are these okay? So I think I saw them on the Angular docs. These best practices that it basically conform to. I'm curious in what the subset of rules are to have statically analyzable code.
So yeah, I guess it depends. That's probably in style guides. We have some style guide. Okay. We have some rules there. Generally, the expressions that are intended to be statically analyzable, they shouldn't have code that is only that could be only evaluated at runtime. So if you have something that depends on the user's environment, let's say, or if you have expression that just let's say get some information from IndexedDB or from the network using a fetch request or something, this couldn't be executed. Well, this couldn't be evaluated at build time without running the application. So that's it. So on the conference that we originally started talking about in New York, I talked about Gechev there. That's a tool that performs predictive prefetching. It tries to predict where the users are going to go so that it can prefetch a page ahead of time. So it relies on the fact that the Angular routes are statically analyzable, since it can read this string literal right here from the dynamic imports. And it works really well with Angular. It works really well with Next.js as well, since Next.js routes are statically analyzable as well, since they are defined by the directory structure. However, if you try to use it with something like, let's say, the React router, where you can have very dynamic route declaration, this is not going to work. So it is a trade-off. You get very dynamic behavior, which can allow you to dynamically assemble your application, but at the same time, it sets some constraints on top of the tooling, how the tooling can assist you at build time.
Yeah.
Similar to the any declaration, let's say, to the any type. Like you get a lot of flexibility this way, but you're not getting great outcome.
Yeah, that's true. Cool. I think I understand that stuff. So we talked about a bunch of things like CLI, schematics, visualization, static. Yes, I guess we talked about static analysis. And then I think you also mentioned like build tooling or Bazel.
Yeah. Oh, let me just show you something about the Angular compiler.
Okay.
So let's build the app and see the output. So this is going to be a production development build, sorry. So it is not going to be optimized.
Ooh.
If we go to the dist directory, and let's see, open, should be here. Maybe.
Is this, by the way, is this with the SSR enabled since you added it, or?
I built it only with client-side rendering. We can pre-render in a moment, for example.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, I guess this is probably somehow similar as the paradigm to Svelte. Like both frameworks are using something that we developed at Google. Like I wasn't part of the development. Like I don't know if I was in web development back then when they did it. It's incremental DOM. It's incremental DOM or like closure templates. So the templates, they compile to a bunch of JavaScript instructions. Let me make them more readable by removing these webpack things. So yeah, here is how these instructions look like. For example, first we have, I made them probably less readable. So here, for example, we have a header with some content. Angular is going to generate element start header with the dynamic content, and there's going to end the element. So this allows us to transform the template into some like more efficient for execution format. For example, we can have two code blocks, one code block for initial rendering and one code block for just checking what has changed inside of the template, so that we don't have to perform like extra operations on top of during change detection on top of the static elements, which will never change. Yeah, just one advantage of compilers in general. I guess it's common between some internal frameworks at Google with like Angular and also Svelte.
Yeah. And there's a lot of speed up that can be done, especially if you realize that, for example, something I think that Vue is working on is they recognize that, in that template with the text, it's not dynamic, it's actually static because it's never assigned or changed. So they just optimize that right away.
Yeah. If we have the dynamic binding, how was it called, title, ngbuild is going to produce another piece of code right here.
Okay.
That is going to be executed only during change detection. So this happens only during initial rendering.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it is.
Oh, hey. Yep. Actually, kind of similar to what Svelte does. So this is like this ECMP function is rerun every time something updates.
Oh yeah, the component function. Yeah.
Oh,
We have a factory function which instantiates the components.
So what do you think about? Actually, does this change a lot for server side rendering? We should probably talk about that.
It's the same. We reuse pretty much the same.
And like the history of SSR, like so I only heard about Scully as like the dedicated static side generator tool, but is SSR like how long has it been like a first class citizen of Angular?
Yeah, I'd say 2015 maybe or 2016.
Okay, so around Angular 2.
Yeah, the betas. It came in as a community project, and it's still largely maintained by the community. We help with good integration with Angular since it's an important part of the Angular ecosystem.
Yeah, got it. Have you? Sorry for so many questions because like I'm pretty interested in like this build time stuff. Nice. Add universal. Yeah, have you so again, like you have like a build workflow. Have you looked into, or what are your thoughts on the unbundler, air quotes unbundler approach that like Vite and Snowpack are doing?
Yeah, that's really I really like that. I think this could potentially, the less work we do at build time, the faster our builds are going to be. So I would say that this is really helpful for shipping, for development builds, and potentially it could be the future of building when we have more evergreen, when we only need to worry about evergreen browsers.
Yeah. Which I guess, actually, so hang on, you can because you're not bundling during dev time, you can just work on your evergreen browsers during development, but you can still transpile for production. I think the tricky thing is I'm not sure whether Angular like is set up for, I guess, file by file compilation, because in my mind it's a bit more of a monolith. It has a lot of cross dependencies with other files. I'm not sure if that's a fair description though.
Yeah, I wouldn't say monolith, but definitely you have cross file dependencies. Sometimes you can be using something in your templates that is defined in a different file, so you need to figure out the dependency graph so that you can compile the application. But at the same time, in Angular, we have two different compilation modes. One of them is ahead of time compilation, which is something that we recommend since it doesn't add any computationally intensive calculations to the browser, since you just get your application that is optimized for production. And you also have JIT, which is just-in-time compilation. so you can perform the compilation in the browser as well. It is somehow similar to the JIT just-in-time compilation that the JavaScript virtual machine does, and probably like just different compilers do, different runtimes. Let's say Ruby, Perl does some JIT as well. So I would say that with JIT, probably this approach is going to work just fine because it relies on dynamic analysis that is happening in the browser at runtime. And you can compile the individual files separately and link them in the browser.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I feel like the browser has changed. So my mental model of the browser used to be that we kind of, when we're doing development tools, we build some assets and then we serve it to a browser as like a local server. But now there's so much more interactivity with the browser as using the browser cache or using like browser hooks that we can live update. That it's really, I don't know. I feel like I have to relearn all this stuff.
Yeah,
to build it.
I was looking at the Chrome Dev Summit recently, and like there are so many new APIs that we have like every other week.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a couple questions, I guess, on YouTube. Chihab's asking about code splitting.
Yeah.
I think this was regards to like static analysis, like if we de-opt from like just dynamic imports like that. Then code splitting is not that possible.
Yeah, with dynamic imports, you can use code splitting. And you can have dynamic imports in your routes and also in your components so that you can lazy load individual components. Currently, lazy loading components is possible. We want to make it just with more ergonomic. Currently, it's so let's say, for example, currently you need 3 lines of code or 4, and we want to make it so that developers can write only a single line of code, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. It's I think something that's something that's React has definitely made a big push on with the suspense component. Has there been a lot of demand for something like that, or does that make sense for anyone?
Not too much since it is already possible, just not the most ergonomic. And I would say that people are still not lazy loading as much as they should probably do so. So we have had some requests from like more advanced users to make it more ergonomic, but they have been already using the alternative approach successfully.
Gotcha. We have one question about themes. What VS Code theme is that? It's a mandatory question. I guess
Right,
Nord. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, it's very understated. Yeah. I like purple in mine, so sometimes I use shades of purple or Retrion. Those are my two go-to right now. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to. I still feel like I don't really have a good understanding of Bazel or Bazel. My understanding is like it's like an optional build tool that Angular can use. What's the status of Bazel with Angular?
Yeah, it's something that has been in Google for 10 years now, and we have been using it inside of the company for a while. It's a build tool similar to, I guess, like, so Webpack does a few things. It's a build tool for the front end and also does bundling and code splitting. And also with plugins, it adds source code optimization, for example, with Cursor. Bazel does only the build part. It doesn't understand how to do code splitting or anything. But at the same time, it can build JavaScript, like TypeScript, C++, C#, Go, and like anything by having different build rules. And it has support for Angular. It has support for React as well. Some friends of mine have been moving some really large code bases to React. It has support for pretty much anything that you would need right now. And it can have pretty easily support for React, right? Because you just need a TypeScript compiler. Let's say if your app is written in React, it's written in TypeScript. TypeScript knows how to compile JSX.
Right, but I guess the question is like how do I choose between when would you choose between Bazel or any of the other build tools?
I have one Bazel project. Yeah, we can look at it and we can discuss. So here is there is this project is running Bazel. We can build the project just by running Bazel build like that. And this is going to build the entire project, all build targets. It is going to produce production builds. It is going to pre-render the app and so on and so forth. And in order to do that, we need a workspace configuration which declares, it's like something like package JSON to a certain extent. And we also need build.bazel files that are declaring kind of different build targets, build actions. Here we have deploy. Inside of Src, we have a way to build the applications, just to build the application, and so on and so forth. So you can see that the configuration is pretty explicit. With the Angular CLI, you don't have to declare any of this. I guess that's the case with the tooling in alternative frameworks as well. So Bazel is much more explicit because it needs to understand the build graph statically. It doesn't discover it by analyzing the source code. It's still static analysis and build tooling, the same things that we discussed with the dynamic imports, with the template compilation. And so if your application really grows and you're struggling with your build speed and you're ready to invest in configuring your build explicitly, the way that Bazel requires to, then I would recommend Bazel. For most applications, just like Webpack with Angular CLI works just fine.
Gotcha. I mean, it's I've heard really good things about it, and I think obviously it's optimized for Google's like blessed technologies. I've heard that there's a few like blessed languages and technologies in there. So yeah, I mean it's cool. I haven't touched it yet, and maybe someday it'll be more popular outside, but it's an option.
Yeah. So let me also share why it is good at scale.
Okay.
So since the build graph is statically analyzable and Bazel can schedule the individual targets, so Bazel can build different targets in parallel. I guess in Webpack this is possible as well. I know in Webpack 4 or before you needed a plugin so that you can take advantage of the multiple cores on the CPU that you have, but I could be wrong here. So Bazel does this out of the box. So if I have 12 cores on my machine, it is going to utilize all the 12 cores. And alternatively, if I am in a large team, and if I want to share the build process, I can have a shared remote cache. Let's say just an Nginx that is running inside of my local network. So when I build something, I can upload the intermediate artifacts to this Nginx. And my colleagues, when they are building the same artifacts, they can just download them from the Nginx server instead of building them from scratch locally. So it has remote caching. That's something which allows it to scale further.
Is that something that I guess you need the infrastructure to be set up?
Yeah, there are some services that provide this out of the box. So I've been partnering with Flare. That's
Flare?
Flare build.
Okay. Flare build.
Folks.
Ooh. Oh, okay. This is a startup.
Yeah. They have. There are a few companies in the space already. Flare, they have pretty advanced remote caching right now with a distributed CDN. So you don't really need to set up the local Nginx that I talked about. You can just plug into their service. And they also have remote build execution. So if you run Bazel build, same thing with config remote. Instead of building the project locally, it's going to build it in the data centers of Flare. And it is going to download the artifacts that it built in their data centers on my local machine.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always wonder about like the future of cloud development. Like, what if in the future we just have an iPad and a keyboard, and then the machine is just remote, right? Like, why are we? What is this? Why are we always doing local, right? You know?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that kind of thing?
I think that, I see a lot of movement in the space. So Bazel is definitely one. There is also NX. I mentioned these folks that are building Angular CLI. So they have remote build execution. I think they're using Webpack for their services. So they have been doing this work as well. It kind of makes sense because you cannot have as powerful machine on your desktop as, let's say, having an entire data center running in Google Cloud.
I mean, that potentially has a very good experience.
Yeah.
Which I almost think, like, I think Microsoft is also doing this, like the code spaces, GitHub code spaces, where you could essentially have your dev box in GitHub, and then it doesn't matter what machine you use.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. There are some folks who have been doing great job also with just low code or no code solutions, which are entirely built in the cloud as well, and you don't really need to understand too much any of the frameworks. There is Builder.io. They're using JSX Lite, which is kind of something like, they are restricted, so static version of JSX. So you can use this version of JSX in a equivalent way that you're using the Angular template without having any runtime semantics. And well, we have runtime semantics, but they're statically analyzable. And they translate the static version to JSX to different frameworks like Vue, React, Angular. I think they have Svelte there as well. So you can pretty much build the application with drag and drop, which is going to compile to this JSX Lite, which from there on you can compile it to any framework, which seems pretty cool.
Yeah. I have been ignoring this JSX Lite thing for a while, but I feel like I should go deeper into this because a few tools seem to be using it, and it's this Builder.io looks very impressive. It looks very polished, almost like Shopify actually, or Squarespace, like a site builder type of thing. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Is there any other Angular projects that you would call out as like kind of representing the future, or like keep a close eye on this one?
I don't know about build tooling right now. I think generally, the future of the web framework is going to be that we'll be streaming the application instead of delivering larger chunks. So I think recently, we had a few discussions on Twitter, and I'm trying to match the topic to one of them. But I think I had this one in a thread by Addy, who was talking about facades and how you can lazy load individual components. So that's definitely powerful. Something which could be even more powerful if you get the pre-rendered or the server-side rendered application delivered to the browser without any JavaScript, and when the user clicks on interacts with the UI, we just download the minimum amount of JavaScript required to handle the user's interaction. This is definitely going to speed up LCP and FCP.
Yeah, so I think that Addy had some kind of terminology for this, like some import on interaction or something, import on touch or. We call it progressive hydration as well, since you're hydrating the application progressively depending on the user interactions. I think so. In the React world, there's a difference between progressive and selective hydration. So in the React terminology, that'll be selective hydration. Like you have a bunch of areas that you could potentially hydrate. You choose them based on some triggers. I think Addy had a good list of 4 triggers. But progressive hydration in the React world would be that you don't block rendering or interactivity as you hydrate. So it's progressively hydrating by having the sort of time slicing code, right? Like that is going on under.
I see. Okay. I was referring to something happening automatically, which when you are server side, well, I guess something similar to, maybe slightly different compared to both. When you server side render, you're getting some kind of pointers to which, by which you can identify the components that are associated with a particular piece of the UI. So the framework does this automatically for you. You click on a button, it downloads the component and its dependency tree. But this also relates to some innovation in the serving tooling as well. Because imagine you click on a button, and this needs to download the components and, let's say, all the services that are associated with it. This means that it needs to send like several requests. So first, it needs to find the component. Right after that, it needs to resolve its dependencies, deliver the dependencies as well, and finally, your application is going to be interactive.
Yeah.
what we have been doing internally is you send a request, which does the bundling on the fly in your kind of CDN, which combines all these JavaScript files and delivers them to you.
Wow. Okay. Is there any like blog post or talk that has described this yet?
I did that talk sometime last year on. I call it like the future of front-end frameworks.
Okay.
I did it
Wow.
2 times.
Very ambitious. Gechev, future of front-end frameworks. Okay, I'll try and find a talk because I think I need to study up on these things. Yeah. Was it JS Poland or Front-end Connect? Front-end Connect. Yeah.
Both I think is the same content.
Got it.
And yeah, it's also like not framework specific. So we did that on Google I/O 2019 or 2018. We did an Angular demo with this technique without the serving part. Since in Google we have just custom infrastructure, which doesn't make sense to be open sourced. We did that with just like multiple requests, which is not ideal, but for the small demo it was fine.
Got it.
Oh yeah, and one more thing around the future. I think also the frameworks, I think they need to be evergreen. Maybe I am biased because that's what we have been aiming for in Angular, but it doesn't make sense to have manual update process where you need to work hard in order to introduce the latest performance improvements and the latest security fixes.
But what does evergreen mean in practice?
Like
so auto upgrades?
Yeah. In Angular we have this ng update command where you can specify in your CLI and Angular core. And when we release a new major version of Angular, the way you migrate, you update to it is just by running this command. Here I'm up to date, but in other applications I'm not. And this is going to update your dependencies and also migrate away from APIs that are now deprecated by statically transforming your application source files.
Okay, so something like on the React side we have React code mod, but it's like a separate path. So something like an inbuilt code mod for every Angular version. That's something that everyone should have. I mean, that's fine for like your core framework, but then your third party libraries, those are gonna break.
We have been trying to so you can currently build out for any library that is used. So you can, let me show you how it works in Angular. We have package.json, which has ng update schematics, and the ng update schematics are just a file, just a JSON file in schematics, which defines all the migrations that Angular has. So for example, we have migration in version 8 that migrates document injection token from platform browser into a common import. And you can do that for your custom library as soon as the users are consuming it with the Angular CLI.
Yeah. So, but the library maintainer will have to write all these.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I mean that's cool if it's a norm in the community. That's a very nice developer experience.
Yeah, it usually works for the more popular projects. Let's say NGRX. This is the state management library that is the most popular right now in the Angular community. We do that in the Angular router and in other frameworks as well.
Is Rxjs still a hard dependency for Angular, or is that de-emphasized?
It's dependency in package.json. Currently, we have only the event emitter, which is kind of the output that emits events happening in the component. It's the only dependency in the framework right now. It's very interesting. So we run currently our developer survey. We got 30,000 responses, which I was surprised when I saw the results. And it's very interesting to see the separation between people who love Rxjs and people who pretty much like, let's say, dislike it.
Okay.
It's almost 50-50. And it's tricky. So I'm kind of neutral. I would, if I built an Angular application, probably I would use less Rxjs because I understand that it's like super expressive and it might be hard for, especially for beginners, to reason about it. And I think you could be successful even without it. But I can see how people love it because it allows you to build super beautiful solutions and a very elegant way for like managing your states, triggering, like handling user interactions. So it's a hard, like it's tricky. There are some technical constraints that it potentially sets. For example, in the progressive hydration or selective hydration that we discussed. With Rxjs, you can have an implicit runtime dependency. So it might be hard to discover this dependency graph so that you can properly hydrate the application. Yeah, it's a tough question, but you don't have to use Rxjs if you don't want to. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a very good language for reactivity, for observables and all that. It's just it is a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
I struggled so much when I first learned it, and I mean it's great. I just had yeah. So people complain a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's all we have time for. I really appreciate that you are so approachable and friendly, and you're working on so hard on all the dev tooling. I'm sure the Angular community really appreciates that. And any other last comments before we close? Oh, we have a question. Chihab Otani says, Osmani, and npx rg and npx ng run inside an Angular project, exactly the same as ng installed globally. No, want to guess?
No. Yeah, npx ng is a different thing. That's a package. I think we talked to the package authors recently. I think Angular does not own ng as far as I remember.
Oh, I see. So the ng command is just the CLI command, but the npm package ng is something different.
Yeah.
Oops. You should get npm to give it to you.
We talked to the authors. I think they're using it for something. Yeah, it's.
Oh no. Okay, well, this has been great. Thanks so much, and I'm sure we can continue chatting. And I put a lot of links in the chat as well, so people can find it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's also like great chatting. Sometimes we can build a more sophisticated app, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay, I'm gonna end the broadcast and see everyone on later. Bye.